Snow whipped across the cemetery as I tore through the iron gate, heart pounding like a war drum, clutching a phone that had just lit up my entire world. I'm still alive. Trust no one, especially your sons. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe so you won't miss the next story that might brighten your day. I'm Gloria Daniels, and this is the night I went from grieving widow to a woman ready to fight back. Stick around, I think you'll want to hear every breath of what happened next. The first shovel of dirt struck the coffin like a gunshot. The sound sliced through the winter air, louder than the minister's prayer, louder than Gloria Daniels's own heartbeat. For a split second, the entire cemetery seemed to flinch, rows of black umbrellas shivering, the iron gate clanging in the wind. Gloria gripped the damp edge of the folding chair until her knuckles went white. Richard was down there. Her husband of 42 years, gone, another thud, then a vibration against her ribs, her phone in the middle of a burial. Gloria blinked at the screen, the letters bleeding against the gray sky. I'm still alive. Trust no one, especially your sons. The world tilted. The minister's voice blurred into the low growl of the storm. Richard, no, impossible. She had held his cooling hand in the hospital. She had signed the death certificate herself. Mom. Nathan's voice snapped her back. Her eldest son stood over her, reins sliding off his tailored coat. His eyes were careful, rehearsed, like a man playing a part. Beside him, Lucas adjusted his tie, glancing at his brother instead of the coffin. Gloria swallowed the panic clawing up her throat. I'm fine, she said, though her voice cracked on the last word. She typed with numb fingers, who is this? The reply came instantly, cruel in its calm. Don't ask, they're watching. Do nothing until we speak again. Her breath caught. A cold certainty spread through her chest. Someone knew her family's secrets, someone close enough to know that her sons were standing right beside her. Another shovel of dirt, another hollow boom. When the prayer ended, neighbors pressed in with condolences that felt a mile away. Mrs. Callahan, the woman who had brought Gloria soup every winter for 20 years, leaned close. You're trembling, honey, let me drive you home. Gloria forced a smile. Thank you, but I'll manage. She barely heard the rest. Every sense was sharpened to a knife edge. Nathan's grip on her elbow lingered a heartbeat too long. Lucas kept checking his watch, not the coffin. Their whispers floated back to her, too soft to catch words but heavy with purpose. And beneath it all, that text burned in her pocket. The drive back through Maplewood should have been muscle memory. Past the shuttered bakery, the frost-slicked playground, the old elm tree Richard once carved their initials into. Tonight, every landmark felt foreign, like someone had redrawn her hometown in darker ink. Inside the empty house, the silence roared. Photographs of Richard lined the mantel, laughing on their wedding day, holding the boys when they were small. Gloria touched the frame of their favorite picture, her fingertips shaking. A second buzz jolted her. Stay alert, they need you to be weak. Don't give them what they want. No signature, no explanation. Gloria locked the doors, every click echoing through the dark rooms. She replayed the funeral in her mind. The cold precision in Nathan's eyes, the faint smirk Lucas tried to hide. Memories of the last months crowded in. Richard worrying about changes in the boys, the unexpected push for extra life insurance, the way they'd started visiting only to talk about money. Grief twisted into something sharper. Fear, suspicion, a flicker of anger. She sank into Richard's chair, the leather still carrying his scent of cedar and machine oil. He whispered to the empty room, what have you done? Rain battered the windows, the phone lay heavy in her palm, the screen dark now but alive with possibility. This wasn't the end of her husband's story, and it was certainly not the end of hers. The rain softened overnight, leaving Maplewood washed in a thin silver dawn. Gloria barely slept. Every time her eyelids dipped, the words I'm still alive. Trust no one, especially your sons, burned behind them like neon. By morning, she sat at the kitchen table with a chipped mug of black coffee. Richard's chair across from her stayed empty, a ghost of worn leather and faint cedar. The house felt wrong without his quiet hum of a man making breakfast, without the scrape of his boots on the tile. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Evelyn Hart stood on the porch, her friend of 30 years and former attorney, with a sharp tongue that time hadn't dulled. Evelyn's gray scarf whipped in the breeze as she stepped inside. Gloria, she said, pulling her into a hug. I came as soon as I heard. How are you holding up? Gloria almost told her everything, the texts, the strange stillness of her sons, but the words lodged in her throat. She managed a thin smile. I'm managing. Evelyn studied, her eyes narrowing. Managing, that's lawyer speak for something's off, want to talk about it. Later, Gloria said, deflecting, coffee. They sat together while the wind rattled the back door. Evelyn spoke of small-town gossip, the bakery reopening under new owners, the holiday fair next month. Her voice was a lifeline of normalcy. Yet Gloria felt the edges of her world shifting, as if the kitchen walls might slide away to reveal something dark and unsteady. After Evelyn left, Gloria forced herself to keep busy. She wandered from room to room, straightening picture frames, running fingers across the life she and Richard had built. Every photograph held a story. Nathan with a scraped knee on his first bike ride. Lucas grinning through a missing tooth on Christmas morning. Richard holding her hand under fireworks the summer they nearly lost the house. How had they all drifted so far? A memory surfaced, one she had ignored until now. Last spring, Richard had stood in this very kitchen, worry etched deep in his brow. "They're changing, Gloria," he'd said quietly, glancing toward the living room where the boys laughed at some private joke. "Money does strange things. They don't visit to see us anymore, they visit to measure the furniture." She'd brushed it off then, telling him their sons were just busy building their lives. But now, the phone buzzed again, sharp as a gunshot. "They want you to doubt yourself, watch their eyes." Gloria's pulse leapt. Whoever this was knew too much, her sons, the tension, even her hesitation. That evening Nathan arrived unannounced. He filled the doorway with his broad-shouldered frame. A suit too expensive for small-town Maplewood. Lucas followed a step behind, smelling faintly of cologne and cigarette smoke. "Mom," Nathan said, voice smooth as a practiced salesman, "we thought we'd check in, make sure you're coping." Lucas gave a quick, polite nod. "Yeah, you okay?" Gloria forced a smile. "I'm getting through it." Nathan set a leather folder on the table. "We've been thinking about the future, your future. The house is big, drafty. A retirement community could give you company and care. We'd handle the sale, get you a good price." Her stomach tightened. "This is our home. Your father built half of these walls with his own hands." Lucas leaned against the counter, eyes on his phone. "It's just an idea, the market's good, might as well cash in while you can." The words cash in landed like an insult. Gloria heard Richard's voice in memory, "They visit to measure the furniture." "I'm not interested," she said firmly. Nathan's polite mask barely twitched. "Think it over, you don't need to decide now." He gathered the folder. But his glance at Lucas carried an unspoken message. As they left, Gloria stood motionless in the hallway, heart pounding. Their visit wasn't about comfort, it was about control. Later, Gloria called Evelyn. "They came by," she said, trying to steady her voice. "They want me to sell the house, something feels off." Evelyn paused. "Do you want me to drop by tomorrow? We can talk options." "Tomorrow," Gloria agreed, relief softening her chest. Before bed, she checked the locks twice, then a third time. Rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers. She slid under the quilt Richard's mother had sewn decades ago and stared at the ceiling, replaying every glance, every word from her sons. The phone buzzed on the nightstand. She snatched it up. "Stay vigilant. Their patience is thin." Her throat tightened. Whoever was sending these messages wasn't just guessing. They were watching, close enough to know her son's next move. Gloria set the phone face down and whispered to the darkness, "Richard, if you're out there, give me strength. I need to know what's real." Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying a sound that might have been a warning or the beginning of something far worse. The next morning broke cold and brittle, the kind of February chill that cracked the air like thin glass. Gloria woke before dawn, her mind already racing. The night's final text, "Their patience is thin," still pulsed in her thoughts like an alarm she couldn't shut off. By 7, the phone rang. Evelyn's brisk voice came through the line. "I'm outside, don't argue, I brought scones." Gloria opened the door to find her friend dusted with frost and carrying a brown paper bag. They settled at the kitchen table where Richard once read the paper, steam curling from 2 cups of coffee. Evelyn broke the silence. "I've been thinking about those boys of yours. The timing of their little retirement plan visit feels surgical." Gloria traced the rim of her cup. "They're my sons. I keep telling myself I'm imagining it," but she stopped, biting the inside of her cheek. "But your gut says otherwise," Evelyn finished. "Trust it, it's kept you alive this long." Before Gloria could answer, her phone buzzed again, a new message. "Check Richard's workshop records. Start with the hospital file." Her breath caught. Evelyn leaned over. "Who keeps texting you?" Gloria hesitated. She had guarded this secret for days. But something in Evelyn's steady gaze broke through her fear. She handed over the phone. Evelyn read the string of messages in silence, eyebrows rising. Finally she whispered, "Whoever this is, they're close, too close." That afternoon, Gloria drove to the small clinic where Richard had been taken after the explosion. The receptionist recognized her and offered the kind of smile reserved for widows. "Mrs. Daniels, I'm so sorry for your loss. How can I help you?" "I'd like to review my husband's records," Gloria said, steady but firm, "for insurance." The receptionist nodded and disappeared into the back. 10 minutes later, she returned with a sealed folder. Gloria carried it to her car like contraband. Inside were pages of clinical notes: burns, inhalation injuries, cardiac arrest. But one entry stopped her cold. Chemical exposure suspected. Methanol levels elevated. Gloria stared at the words until they blurred. Richard hadn't died from an explosion alone. He had been poisoned. That evening, Nathan arrived without warning. The doorbell's sharp chime made Gloria jump. "Mom," he said smoothly when she opened the door, "Lucas and I need to talk." He stepped inside before she could invite him. Lucas followed, shoulders tense. "We've been thinking about Dad's insurance. There are forms you'll need to sign soon. We can handle it for you." Gloria's heart thudded. "I haven't even buried him a week," she said quietly. Nathan offered a sympathetic smile that didn't reach his eyes. "These things move quickly. We just want to make sure you're protected." The word tasted like poison. Protected from what? Evelyn's warning echoed in her head. "Trust your gut." "I'll take care of it myself," Gloria said, voice firmer than she felt. Nathan's smile tightened. "Of course, just don't let the hospital bills pile up. They can drain savings fast." Lucas shifted, avoiding Gloria's gaze. "We'll check back tomorrow," he muttered, already turning for the door. When they left, the house seemed to exhale a long, uneasy breath. Unable to sit still, Gloria drove to Richard's workshop on the edge of town. The scent of sawdust and machine oil clung to the air, a bittersweet echo of his long hours building furniture for neighbors. Tools lay neatly arranged, Richard's habit. But near the workbench she found something that didn't belong, a crumpled hardware store receipt dated 3 days before his death. Her eyes scanned the list: nails, sandpaper, methanol, paid in cash. Gloria's stomach turned. Richard had perfect eyesight with his reading glasses. He never used methanol for his projects. Someone else had been here. A shadow crossed the dusty window. Gloria froze, listening. Only the wind and the distant groan of pine trees answered. Still, she locked the door behind her when she left. That night, another text lit her phone as she set it on the nightstand. "They moved money today. Bank account ending in 742. Check it before it disappears." Her chest tightened. Only a family member would know the account number. Gloria called the bank first thing the next morning. Mrs. Thompson, the longtime manager, greeted her warmly. "Gloria, I was heartsick to hear about Richard. What can I do?" "I need to review recent transactions," Gloria said, "all of them, within minutes." A screen of withdrawals appeared, several large transfers made the day after Richard's death. The authorization signature was familiar. Nathan's. Mrs. Thompson frowned. "I thought these were for funeral expenses. Wasn't that arranged?" Gloria forced a calm nod, but her pulse hammered. "Yes, thank you for your help." She walked out into the icy air, gripping her purse like a lifeline. That evening, Evelyn returned with a small digital recorder. "If they're planning something, we need proof," she said. "We'll set this up in the kitchen, just act normal." Gloria looked around her quiet home, the walls now witnesses to a gathering storm. She thought of Richard's steady hands, of the life they had built brick by brick. "I won't let them take this from me," she whispered. Evelyn placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we fight smart, and we start tonight." Outside, the wind carried the faint metallic scent of snow. Inside, Gloria felt the first spark of resolve. The fear was still there, but now it burned with purpose. The first flakes of snow fell that night, soft and deceptive as feathers. Gloria watched them swirl in the porch light, thinking how quiet danger could look when it wanted to. Inside, Evelyn set the small recorder on the kitchen counter. "This will run for 72 hours straight," she explained, slipping fresh batteries inside. "Every word in this house will be ours to replay. Hide it where you'd hide your heart." Gloria managed a faint smile. "Under the bread box, then." "Nobody ever looks there." They shared a brief laugh, thin, brittle, but human. "Tomorrow," Evelyn continued, lowering her voice, "I'll talk to a private investigator I trust. Ex-cop, knows how to disappear when he needs to, named Sam Calder." Gloria nodded, though her chest tightened. Bringing in a stranger meant pulling someone else into the dark, but the darkness was already inside her home. The next day was a study in nerves. Gloria moved through her routine: laundry, tea, a walk around the block, while her thoughts raced. Every sound seemed amplified: the crunch of footsteps outside, the creak of the floorboards, the faint hum of the refrigerator. In the afternoon, a knock came at the door. Nathan, alone. His smile was picture perfect, the kind that made neighbors call him such a good son. "Mom," he said, stepping in before she could speak, "I thought we could talk about the accounts. There are options we should consider." Gloria gripped the edge of the counter. "I've considered enough." Nathan tilted his head as if speaking to a child. I know this is hard, but grief makes people vulnerable. Scammers love that. Let Lucas and me handle the finances. We'll protect you. Protect, the word curled like smoke in the air. I'm capable of protecting myself, she said evenly. For a heartbeat, his eyes hardened, flat, calculating. Then the charming mask slid back into place. Of course, Mom, we just worry. He left without another word. Gloria waited until his car disappeared down the street before exhaling. The recorder's tiny red light blinked beneath the bread box. 2 nights later, Evelyn returned with Sam Calder. He was a tall man in a weathered coat, his presence quiet but commanding. Mrs. Daniels, he said, shaking her hand firmly. Evelyn filled me in. First things first, I'm sorry for your loss. Second, I don't believe in coincidences this neat. They sat around the kitchen table, the same one Richard had built years ago, and Gloria told him everything, the texts, the strange withdrawals, the methanol receipt. Sam listened without interruption, his eyes sharp and unreadable. Here's what I'll do, he said finally. I'll check the hardware store for security footage. I'll also plant a few small mics around the house, discreet. If your sons are planning something, we'll know. Gloria hesitated. Won't they notice? Not if I do it, Sam said simply. Evelyn gave Gloria's hand a reassuring squeeze. Trust him, he's the best. Over the next week, the tension thickened like ice on a river. Sam moved quietly, sliding tiny recorders behind picture frames and beneath shelves. Gloria pretended life was normal: groceries, church, a visit to the library, while her senses stayed on high alert. One evening, Lucas arrived unexpectedly, his expression tight. Mom, Nathan says you're refusing to sign the insurance paperwork. That's dangerous. We can't let hospital bills swallow everything. Gloria studied him, noting the restless flick of his eyes, the faint tremor in his hands. I'll handle the bills, she said softly. Lucas exhaled sharply. You're being stubborn. Dad wouldn't want this. Your father would want me safe, Gloria replied. And I am. He stared at her for a long moment, jaw working. Then he turned and left without another word. The bread box recorder captured every syllable. 3 nights later, Sam called close to midnight. Mrs. Daniels, I think you need to hear something. Gloria and Evelyn met him in the dim glow of the kitchen. Sam set a laptop on the table and hit play. Nathan's voice crackled through the speakers. Insurance payout clears next week. We just have to keep her calm until then. Lucas answered, his tone colder than she'd ever heard. And if she starts asking too many questions. A pause, then Nathan again. We do what we planned, quietly. Nobody will suspect a thing after Dad. Gloria gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles blanched. Evelyn muttered a curse under her breath. Sam let the silence stretch. That's enough for a warrant if it escalates, but I'd like more, something indisputable. Gloria's stomach churned, but resolve steadied her. Get it. Whatever you need. The following afternoon, Sam returned from town with a folder. Security footage, he said, sliding it across the table. Inside were still photos. Lucas exiting a hardware store 5 days before Richard's death, a small brown bottle in hand. Methanol, paid in cash. Gloria stared at the image until the edges blurred. The man in the photo looked like her son, but wore an expression she didn't recognize, cold, efficient, untroubled. They're moving faster than I thought, Sam said quietly. Be careful, they might try to push harder, especially if they sense you're suspicious. Gloria nodded. Her heart beat steady now, like a drum of quiet defiance. Let them push, she whispered. I'm ready. Outside, the wind howled across the frozen fields, carrying the promise of a coming storm. Snow muffled the world outside Gloria's windows, but inside the Daniels house the air felt sharp enough to cut. Days had passed since Sam played the recording of Nathan and Lucas plotting in cold, deliberate tones. Gloria had replayed their voices so many times she could hear them even in silence. Evelyn arrived just after dusk, shaking off the snow. Sam's on his way, she said, stamping her boots. He's found something new. Gloria poured coffee with steady hands. Another photo? Better, Evelyn replied, her eyes hard. Paperwork. Minutes later, Sam stepped in, a leather folder tucked beneath his arm. He greeted Gloria with a quiet nod and opened the folder on the kitchen table, the same table that had become their war room. This, he said, sliding out a notarized document, is a petition to have you declared legally incompetent. Your sons filed it yesterday morning. Gloria's breath caught. Sam tapped a second sheet. They've also scheduled a consultation with a senior care facility. If a doctor signs off, they can take control of your finances within days. Evelyn muttered, bold little vipers. Gloria stared at the papers, anger flared hot and clean. They won't take my home or Richard's legacy. Sam met her gaze. Then we move first. That night Gloria barely slept. Memories kept breaking through. Richard teaching the boys to fish at Pine River, Lucas laughing so hard he fell into the water, Nathan proudly handing her a Mother's Day card written in crooked letters. How had love turned to this? Near midnight the phone buzzed. "They will act tomorrow, be ready." Gloria whispered to the dark, "I'm ready." Morning brought a brittle blue sky and the crunch of boots on fresh snow. Nathan and Lucas arrived together, coats unbuttoned despite the cold. They entered without waiting for an invitation. "Mom," Nathan began smoothly, "Lucas and I have been talking. We know how hard this is, but you need professional care. We've arranged everything." Gloria folded her arms. "Arranged?" Lucas stepped forward. "It's for your own good. Grief can." "Stop," Gloria said, her voice like a whip. "You don't get to decide what's good for me." Nathan's expression tightened. "We spoke with Dr. Harland. He agrees you're showing signs of paranoia. Hallucination. We can't risk you making dangerous financial mistakes. So you'll steal from me instead?" Gloria asked, calm and cutting. Nathan's mask slipped for a fraction of a second. "This is protection," he said flatly. "I don't need your protection," Gloria replied, "and I'm not incompetent." Lucas glanced toward the hallway where the hidden recorder blinked silently. "You're proving our point," he said. Gloria took a single step closer, eyes locked on her eldest son. "If you push this, you'll regret it." A tense beat stretched between them before Nathan exhaled sharply. "We'll give you time, but this isn't over." When the door shut behind them, Evelyn emerged from the hallway where she'd been listening. "They're overplaying their hand." Sam nodded from the porch where he'd been recording everything on a hidden mic. "Every word is evidence." That evening Sam called with another revelation. The hospital finally released toxicology reports. He said, "Your husband didn't die from burns. His blood had lethal methanol level. Classic poisoning." Gloria's heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "The explosion was a cover." "Exactly, and your sons kept the real cause off the death certificate by signing a confidentiality request." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "We take this to the police now." Sam raised a hand. "One more piece. We need the final proof they planned it." The next day brought that proof. Sam arrived with a small flash drive. "Recorded this from a mic I placed in their car," he said. Nathan's voice spilled into the kitchen. "Once the insurance clears, we can move her to Brookside, sell the house, split the money. She won't fight if the doctors say she's unstable." Lucas answered, colder still, "If she starts digging, we finish it like with Dad. Quiet. Nobody will ever know." Gloria gripped the table's edge. There it was, undeniable. "They were going to kill me," she whispered. Sam's voice softened. "You have enough to bury them legally, ready to file." Gloria closed her eyes, feeling Richard's presence like a steadying hand. "Yes, it ends tomorrow." The following morning, Gloria walked into the Maplewood police station flanked by Evelyn and Sam. She carried the folder of recordings, photos, bank statements, the blueprint of betrayal. Sergeant O'Connell listened in stunned silence, the evidence spreading across his desk like a map of treachery. "Mrs. Daniels," he said finally, "this is a homicide investigation now." Gloria felt a strange calm settle over her. The fear that had haunted every night melted into quiet resolve. Justice had begun to turn in her favor. Outside, the winter sun glared off the snow, bright and merciless. Gloria tightened her scarf and looked to the sky. For the first time since Richard's funeral, the air tasted like hope. The courthouse smelled of old wood and cold stone. The kind of place where truth could echo for decades. Gloria Daniels stood at the entrance, scarf wrapped tight, Evelyn at her side. Snow flurries clung to their coats. Behind them, Sam Calder adjusted his tie with the ease of a man who'd seen darker trials than this. "Ready?" he asked. Gloria nodded once. "I've been ready since Richard's funeral." Inside, the courtroom buzzed with a low murmur. Neighbors filled the benches, curiosity heavy in the air. Gloria felt their eyes on her, a mixture of sympathy and disbelief. Few in Maplewood could imagine that Nathan and Lucas, once the pride of the town, were capable of murder. The bailiff called the room to order. When the heavy doors swung open, Nathan and Lucas entered in matching gray suits. Nathan kept his chin high, his face unreadable. Lucas looked smaller than Gloria remembered, pale and twitching at the edges. Judge Morrison, a woman with a voice like sharpened steel, took her seat. "State of Vermont versus Nathan Daniels and Lucas Daniels," she announced. "Charges: first-degree murder of Richard Daniels and conspiracy to commit murder against Gloria Daniels." The words landed like stone. Gloria held her breath. The prosecution moved first. The district attorney, a composed woman named Alvarez, laid out the evidence piece by piece. The toxicology report proving methanol poisoning. The security footage of Lucas purchasing the chemical under a false name, the secret recordings Sam had captured, Nathan's voice cold as ice. If she starts digging, we finish it like with Dad. Each exhibit felt like a door clicking shut. Evelyn sat stiff beside Gloria, her hand a quiet anchor. They can't wriggle out of this, she whispered. When the recordings played aloud, an audible gasp rippled through the spectators. Someone in the back began to cry. Gloria kept her gaze fixed on the defense table. Nathan's jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed the first flicker of fear. Lucas simply stared at the floor. The defense tried to paint the brothers as grief-stricken sons misunderstood in their planning, claiming the recordings were taken out of context. But Sam's meticulous documentation shredded every excuse. Bank withdrawals, forged signatures, the confidentiality request that had hidden Richard's true cause of death. The pattern was unmistakable. After 3 days of testimony, the jury needed only 4 hours. We find the defendants guilty, the foreman said, voice clear, of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The courtroom erupted, murmurs, gasps, the scrape of chairs. Nathan's composure cracked. He sagged into his seat as if the floor had been pulled away. Lucas remained motionless, eyes fixed on some distant point only he could see. Judge Morrison delivered the sentence, life imprisonment without parole. Gloria felt the weight lift, not with triumph but with finality. Justice, cold and clean. Weeks passed. Winter began to loosen its grip. Gloria returned to the workshop Richard had loved, the air rich with sawdust and memory. With Evelyn and Sam's help, she transformed it into a community space, half garden, half studio, where neighborhood kids could build birdhouses or paint on sunny afternoons. Red roses climbed the windows, Richard's favorite. Letters began arriving from strangers who had followed the trial. Widows who found courage in her steadiness. Parents who vowed to talk openly with their children about money and trust. Gloria answered each one, her words measured and warm. Every Wednesday, Sam visited. They shared coffee on the porch, watching the garden grow. Sometimes they spoke of the case, sometimes of nothing at all. In the quiet moments, Gloria felt Richard near, like the scent of cedar when the wind shifted, or the soft creak of the chair he had built. Occasionally, a letter came from prison. Scrawled in Lucas's familiar handwriting, apologies, pleas for forgiveness. Gloria read the first few, searching for the boys she had once tucked into bed, but the words only reopened wounds. Eventually she set them aside, praying silently for his soul but refusing to let his guilt define her days. One spring morning, Gloria stood at the garden's edge as children's laughter drifted from the workshop. The sun broke through clouds, spilling gold across the flowers. She spoke softly as if Richard were beside her. They chose betrayal, she said, but I choose peace. The breeze stirred, carrying the scent of roses and freshly turned earth. Gloria closed her eyes and let it wash over her, a quiet dawn after a long, dark night. I'm Gloria Daniels, and if my journey teaches anything, it's this: truth will always outlive the lies. Stand firm, protect your dignity, and never underestimate your own strength, even when betrayal comes from those you love most. If this story moved you, join our community at LovingtruthStories. Subscribe now so you never miss the next tale of courage and justice, and help us share these values with the world.